Some polls now have us leading in New Hampshire, substantially closing the gap here in Iowa, and closing the gap all over America. So obviously, I think the Secretary's people are getting very nervous about the kind of energy and enthusiasm our campaign is bringing forth.
I've always thought this was going to be a competitive primary, and I welcome that.
Let's talk about it with our panel, syndicated columnist George Will, Juan Williams, columnist with The Hill, and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. Thank you all for being here with us on Labor Day. Let's get to one of those polls that Senator Sanders was talking about there, this new NBC Marist poll. This is out of New Hampshire. Bernie Sanders now leading Hillary Clinton by 9 points, and Joe Biden in double digits, even though he's not in. George, what do you make of it?
People are not enthusiastic about Mrs. Clinton. The oldest parable in American politics is about the guy who decides to go into the dog food business, gets all the best ingredients, wonderful label, attractive can, best display in all the stores, and it doesn't sell. Finally, he goes into the pet store and says, "What's the matter with my dog food? I did everything right." He said, "The dogs don't like it." The voters in this case are not warming to the product, and there's nothing she can do about it.
Juan, what do you think? Because today we saw the vice president out looking very much like a candidate, speaking with kind of some fiery rhetoric and stirring people up at a speech in Pittsburgh, talking about labor issues. Double digits there in New Hampshire, doing well in Iowa as well, too, though he's not running. Or is he?
Well, there's no way to know, but it's from the rhetoric that he's using, it seems like he's got a family problem. It seems as if his family is not 100% bought in, and of course they're dealing with a terrible tragedy, the death of a son. So I get the sense that there are people in the donor class who are willing to back a Joe Biden. The question is whether or not Joe Biden has the family support, the energy necessary to get into what looks like it could be a daunting race, because it's hard for him to separate himself out from Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. He's the vice president. He's been there for all the big deals. Today, Labor Day, he was there for the Trans-Pacific Partnership trade deal. I mean, so it's hard for him to say, "Oh no, I've got nothing to do with that. I'm to the left. I'm with big labor." That's just impossible.
Well, and Charles, all of them know that they need these labor union endorsements, and in most cases, they're keeping their powder dry at this point.
Well, in the end, I think whoever's the nominee is going to have to come out against the trade agreement. When you watch Elizabeth Warren on trade, she's fired up, her crowds are, and I think she's sort of the sleeper in the race. I know that the alternative people are thinking of, if something happens to Hillary, if her numbers go so low that she becomes sort of toxic, although I'm not sure that could happen outside of an indictment, is Elizabeth Warren. She would be a woman. She gets tremendous enthusiasm. If Biden were to run, I think the key for him would be to put her on the ticket. Whether she would accept it or not, I don't know. But that, I think, would be an extremely strong ticket, and it would have tremendous appeal to labor. Otherwise, I mean, I don't see who has the stature, who has the path, again, absent an indictment, to actually stop Hillary. Yes, she's sliding. Yes, she's slipping, and it doesn't look as if she's got a big safety net. But you've got to beat something with something. And I'm not sure who that somebody is going to be.
Well, let's look over at the other side of the aisle, because the polling came out from the same outfits. They are also related to the GOP in New Hampshire. Leading list, not surprising, Donald Trump is there at 28%, followed by John Kasich at 12%, Ben Carson at 11%, Jeb Bush at 8%, Carly Fiorina at 6%, Scott Walker at 4%. And, we continue down the list there. Here is what former Governor Huckabee said about why he thinks certain candidates, non-establishment candidates, non-politicians, are doing so well.
People are angry, and what you see is a reflection of that mood. The one thing that I think is going to happen, people are going to ask, would I let somebody do surgery on me who's never done it before? Would I let somebody fly an airplane through a thunderstorm with me in it who has never flown before? And I think people are going to start saying, yes, we want someone who is against the establishment, who's not part of the Washington system, but we want someone who has done this before.
Do you buy that, George? I mean, when you have people like Fiorina, Trump, and Carson doing so well in these polls, do you think ultimately voters are done with them and done playing this game over the summer and will actually go for somebody who's a politician instead?
I think they might. What makes Carson interesting is he's both the un-Hillary and the un-Trump. the un-Hillary in the sense that people just like him when they see him, in the way he talks in his self-deprecating manner. And he's the un-Trump in the sense that he's a gentleman and he's soft-spoken, and Trump is, of course, neither of those. He has 2.5 million followers on Facebook. He has an even more impressive 275,000 contributors, which means he's tapping into what Barry Goldwater did and George Wallace did and other real outsiders. He's getting small contributors, and to me that's the surest sign that you've hit something.
Yeah, and his crowds continue to grow, and people do turn out. He's got a great social media operation. And it's interesting because people say things like he's not confrontational, but he's clear about what he wants. He gets his point across without screaming and yelling. Those are some of the most recent quotes on him from folks who say they're voting for him. Also interesting, a Des Moines Register poll, Bloomberg poll, showed he has 79% favorability, Juan, far beyond anybody else in the GOP field, and for that matter, Democrats too.
It's hard not to like Ben Carson. I mean, it's just a fact. I can say that knowing him personally, just a very much a... And you got to remember, too, people, some of Ben Carson's ads literally have him in a doctor's outfit, reminding people this is not a politician. This is not your traditional fare. And I think it opens the door to the idea, again, that he has achieved a great deal in life and that he offers us now something in terms of the political arena. The problem for Ben Carson has been just this. He doesn't know how to speak at times. He makes offhand statements that are open to ridicule, and he stumbles. He did not have a great debate performance until the very end when he came out with that line about separating the twins. The question is whether or not now, given the success he's had building that base that George talked about, he can extend it after Labor Day.
Well, Dr. Krauthammer, you could also come to do the show in scrubs. We wouldn't mind that at all. Perform surgery on the panel here.
Well, next week,
intellectually.
I'll bring my stethoscope.
Okay. I want to ask you about so many of the Republicans that people would have thought at this point would have been at the top, and they're losing. We've seen Jeb Bush and Scott Walker have sort of precipitous falls in some of these very important states. What do you make of it?
Look, I think the cliche is right. Conventional wisdom is right. The Republican Party right now is in the mad as hell mood. They're not interested in anybody with experience. That's the argument everybody in the field in single digits, that means, is trying to make. Right now, it's not going to matter. Will it matter on the night of the Iowa caucuses? I think it'll matter more. But we're now in the stage where people are registering their protest. And I think, you know, my colleagues here are right. Carson is the kinder, gentler Trump. If you're mad as hell, but you don't want to be throwing food around, and you want somebody who's admirable in just about every way, your resting place, the place where you park your vote, at least now, is with Carson. But look, in the end, I mean, maybe I'm just elitist, old-fashioned, and establishment, but I do think that in the end, it matters what you know and what you actually say. The things that Carson and Trump have said on a large number of topics are puzzling and also indicating people who may not be, let us say, adept at policy. That does not seem to matter one bit. The other candidates are still criticized, parsed, and taken down in many ways for a single slip of the tongue on a question about a wall in Canada or wherever. But the two leading candidates, Carson and Trump, are utterly immune to that standard. I don't know that that can persist right through. I expect there'll be a point where people are going to quote what they've said back to them, and they're going to have to answer.
Well, we all know some summer flings last and some don't. So we'll see.